In the weeks following the World Economic Forum's annual Davos conference, we've seen two massive attacks on countries wanting to become a Bitcoin country or wanting to simply buy more Bitcoin. The first attack is one that everybody's talked about. We know that when the Czech central bank chief came out and announced his intentions to buy billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, Christine Lagarde came out days later attacking the central banker of the Czech Republic. And we are going to play that video for you guys of Christine Lagarde attacking the Czech central bank. But I want to first talk about the second big attack that we've seen come out in the days following the annual World Economic Forum Davos conference, essentially becoming a Bitcoin conference. We're going to be talking about the change of tune that I think we've seen at the World Economic Forum's annual conference. But again, the second attack that really caught my attention is a little bit of the kerfuffle that we're seeing between the IMF and El Salvador. Of course, the chief of the IMF was the other lady on the thumbnail of today's video, but I found it really interesting that at the same time, we saw a little bit of a scrambling and a little bit of a back and forwards between the IMF and El Salvador. We saw El Salvador have a little bit of volatility in their Bitcoin buying. Now, again, I was planning to do this video earlier in the week, and there might have been a little bit more to this story until today. El Salvador came out yesterday and they bought 11 Bitcoin. They significantly increased their Bitcoin buying in a big manner, which again, is positive, it's bullish, it's what we want to see. But I was a little bit concerned that between January 24th and January 31st, we saw 7 days go by and El Salvador only bought 2 Bitcoin. Again, you guys can see back here in early January, you can see this very consistent stair-stepping higher in the Bitcoin being bought by El Salvador. This is because they're buying a Bitcoin a day no matter what. And we saw interspersed with that some bigger days where El Salvador was buying 11 Bitcoin. Obviously, this is bullish. This was super interesting. El Salvador did secure that loan from the IMF earlier in the year. And I absolutely loved to see the country stack 11 Bitcoin in the days after securing that loan from the IMF. But I'm not going to lie, I was certainly curious. I was very, very curious for why we did see El Salvador only buy $2 billion, 2 buys of Bitcoin in a whole week. Obviously, yesterday when they came out and they bought 21 Bitcoin, it kind of reassured me that El Salvador isn't phased by the IMF, but it is very clear that the elites are paying very close attention to Bitcoin. We know El Salvador has secured that $1.4 billion loan from the IMF. They had to make some concessions, which we are going to be talking about here in a moment regarding the Bitcoin law and what changes are going to be coming. Before I get there, I want to make sure we're clear. We're very clear of the amount of Bitcoin that El Salvador has been buying recently. The numbers don't lie. We can see it here. The total SPR holdings for El Salvador. I love that. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. El Salvador squatting on 6,000 coins. Again, it's incredible. That's amazing. It's beautiful to see. I'm going to put that into a little bit more context when we start looking at the Bitcoin held per person in El Salvador here in a moment. But for this week, despite the volatility that some people thought were a concern, rightfully so, El Salvador has still stacked 21 Bitcoin this week. This is why I always encourage you guys, hey, zoom out a little bit. Let's not get too worried about El Salvador not buying Bitcoin for a couple days in a row. Let's zoom out. We can see 21 Bitcoin in the week added. Over the past 30 days, they've added 60 Bitcoin. Again, this is encapsulating the trend of El Salvador arguing with the IMF. They've been trying to secure this loan for the past, 30 to 45 days. They secured it in December, and the noise is filtered out by the signal when we recognize the fact that over the past 30 days, El Salvador's bought 60 Bitcoin. Since 2022, El Salvador was buying 1 Bitcoin every single day, very consistently, dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. Exactly what you guys should be doing, dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. But more recently, we've seen that volatility. El Salvador's been aggressively having days where they buy 11 Bitcoin in a day. And then more recently, I was worried when we saw a few days slip by with no Bitcoin buys. But again, I always encourage you guys, zoom out, look at the trend. And it doesn't matter what the IMF does, they cannot stop El Salvador. They cannot stop an idea whose time has come, despite how hard the elites are trying, which pivots me into the other very important thing I want to discuss, and that is pertaining to the World Economic Forum conference, Davos, and what's going on in the Czech Republic. Before we get there, I just want to make sure, there are some things that have changed in El Salvador. Okay, so yes, the IMF were able to get El Salvador to drop Bitcoin from being official legal tender that's forced, quote unquote, upon every business in the country. Again, we know that that wasn't enforced in the country. We know that businesses had the option in El Salvador to adopt Bitcoin or to not really adopt Bitcoin. But the IMF believed that they secured a small win when they said, look, we need to change the phrasing in this Bitcoin legal tender law. And what else has changed is that El Salvador has ditched the Bitcoin wallet, the Chivo wallet that was created by the government to create this IMF deal that secured them the whopping $1.4 billion of money, financing money from the IMF. Now, again, let's dispel the FUD. Some people have said, oh, this means Bitcoin failed. And again, let's be fair, there is a viewpoint. There are lots of Salvadorian people who believe that Chivo wallet, the government wallet in the country, is Bitcoin. We know that's not true. We're Bitcoiners. We know that you can use any wallet you want in Bitcoin to pay for Bitcoin. But this is the perception that some people have, especially outside of the space. Statwise is 100% true in the comments. The wallet was junk. I've interacted with the Chivo wallet, and it, again, is very difficult to use. It's very slow. Many merchants refuse to update it. So even using the Lightning Network, sometimes it was slightly challenging. So I don't think it's a massive thing or a massive concession that El Salvador's said, look, yeah, okay, we'll ditch our government wallet and we won't make it completely mandatory in the country. It never was anyway. Give us that $1.4 billion. So I hope we've cleared a little bit of the FUD surrounding what's happening in El Salvador, the first region that's been attacked by the IMF, one of the ladies on the thumbnail of today's video. Now, the other lady on the thumbnail of today's video was attacking this gentleman here, the central bank chief of the Czech Republic. Of course, the lady we're talking about is the lady known as the burnt lobster, Christine Lagarde. I've got a very interesting video I want to play for you guys. This video came out literally 2 days after the Czech Republic central banker came out and said he wants to buy billions of dollars of Bitcoin, replicating what Donald Trump has done all the way over in America, creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Let's see the audio. Works on this video from Christine Lagarde.
Matter that you referred to, and whether reserves of central bank should or could include Bitcoins. I think there is a view around the table of the Governing Council, and most likely the General Council as well, that reserves have to be liquid, that reserves have to be secure, that they have to be safe, that they should not be plagued by the suspicion of money laundering or other criminal activities. And as a result, I'm confident that reserves will not enter, that Bitcoins will not enter the reserves of any of the central banks of the General Council.
Just quickly, why did she say she was confident? Is that because she's had a private conversation with the central banker from the Czech Republic and she said You will never get financing money ever again from the ECB if you adopt Bitcoin as a reserve, or if you put Bitcoin in your reserves, or if you follow through with what you said when you said you were going to print fiat money and buy billions of dollars of Bitcoin. Just a hypothetical. You have to ask yourself, why is she confident? Why is convicted criminal and former worker at the IMF so confident that the Czech central banker will not buy Bitcoin? Just a question I want you guys to ponder and think about while I play you guys the rest of this video from convicted criminal. That's right. Christine Lagarde is a convicted criminal. Christine Lagarde bashing Bitcoin.
I had a good conversation with my colleague from the Czech Republic, and I leave it to him to make whatever announcement he wants to make, but I'm confident that he's convinced, as we all are, of the necessity to have liquid, secure, and safe reserves. On this...
Well, there you go. She's confident. She did, in fact, have that conversation with the central banker from the Czech Republic, and she's very confident that the Czech Republic is not going to adopt Bitcoin. I don't know what you guys think. Do you think there's something strange potentially going on? Do you think that maybe, just maybe, there's some handshake deals going on behind closed doors? Look, I think there is, guys. And I think there's something we really need to be aware of. I think it's also something that needs to be watched. Something else that needs to be watched, and I want all of you guys tuning into this live stream to be aware of, there is 1,470 of you guys tuning in between YouTube and Twitter. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying this Tuesday night. I want all of you to be aware of the fact that despite Christine Lagarde being head of the ECB, the European Central Bank, she is in fact a convicted criminal. You guys can read the headline right here. Christine Lagarde convicted. IMF head found guilty of criminal charges over, quote unquote, massive government payout. Have a look at that. That photo of Christine says it all. She doesn't look too impressed, does she? She doesn't quite look as confident as she normally looks when she's bashing on Bitcoin. Again, I always tell you guys, the biggest criminals, they're not running around the streets on a Friday or Saturday night lurking in dark corners. Most of them are who the people we call leaders. And we aspire to be like. They're actually people in government. Not all people in government. Some people in government, yes. I'm going to be careful with what I say here. The takeaway is that these elites are freaking out over Bitcoin. They cannot stop Bitcoin. There is no stopping this train. The money is going to have to be printed no matter what. And it doesn't matter what these people do, they will not face justice because we're not living in a fair system. Statwise's comment, Christine gets caught scamming at the IMF and she's demoted to still being the head of the ECB. Again, it doesn't matter if you're caught lying, stealing, bribing, threatening. If you are somebody who is in the connected class, the parasitic class, you're still going to be able to continue the scam forever. This is why we do not live in a fair system. This is why we always advocate people learn about a fairer system, an alternative system. I mean, it's great. I could make these videos crying and complaining about the political system being unfair. And again, there's a lot of people who I share similar views with online in the libertarian space. Or, you know, they're part of the Libertarian Party and they can see all of the injustices that we can see. But what's the solution? You're never going to vote your way out of tyranny. We believe the only way to do that is by opting out and simply being a part of a new system. This is why we always encourage you guys, learn about Bitcoin. I challenge anyone. I haven't found anyone who's put more than 10 hours of work and study into Bitcoin that doesn't want to learn more about this alternative parallel system that Bitcoin is. If you do want to learn more about Bitcoin, if you do want to buy some Bitcoin, I always tell you guys to check out what Rhino Bitcoin is doing. We think that the all-in-one Bitcoin super application, super easy and user-friendly wallet that anyone can use. As you can see, Rhino's got a pretty slick user interface. We believe they are the place to send your new family and friends who might be getting onboarded to Bitcoin for the first time. Again, you guys can get $10 of free Bitcoin if you sign up with Rhino using promo code Bitcoin News. That's one word. So again, take advantage of that. Who doesn't love the free Bitcoin? And again, if you are looking to hang out with some like-minded individuals who also think that Christine Lagarde should not be somebody who we aspire to be like or listen to, you can find many of those people at a Bitcoin conference. The specific Bitcoin conference we want to tell you guys about is one that's happening in about 2 months' time. So if you are in America, South America, Central America, or if you're even in Europe, the place you're gonna want to be for March 25th to 27th is actually in Florida. It's actually my favorite state in America, believe it or not. I really mean it when I do say that. I love Florida. And if you're about, and if you are looking to connect with some incredible Bitcoiners at a Bitcoin conference, we'd love to let you guys know about Mining Disrupt. This is the world's largest Bitcoin mining conference. That's right. I didn't stutter. The world's largest Bitcoin mining conference. Have a look at the speakers you're going to see there. You've got Dennis Porter. You've got Samson Mao. We got Ben Parent, BTC Sessions, Matthew Siegel. You have a host of great names. There's going to be a ton of great Bitcoiners at this conference. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, you're going to want to attend Mining Disrupt 2025. Again, highly recommend you check it out. And we even have a special present for you guys here on the channel. You can get 20% off your tickets if you use promo code Bitcoin News. Everything you need to know about both today's show sponsors, you can find down below in the description. Now, something you won't find down below in the description is us endorsing the left and right battle, the politics battle, leaning into the noise that is the elites scaremongering, fear-mongering, and attacking Bitcoin. We do think that there's some serious signal that these elites are freaking out over Bitcoin. They are absolutely freaking out over Bitcoin. There's nothing they can do to stop Bitcoin. I think that just means that we are winning. That's what I really want to remind you guys of today. Again, what is Bitcoin to the elites? I love playing this video for you guys as often as I can. This is Christine Lagarde talking about Bitcoin in her very own words. When asked about it,
this has to be applied and agreed upon. It's a matter that needs to be agreed at a global level, because if there is an escape, that escape will be used. So
if there is an escape, that escape will be used. That's right. Bitcoin is the escape valve. Bitcoin is not the bubble. Bitcoin is not the Ponzi. Bitcoin is, in fact, the pin that is popping the $400 trillion fiat Ponzi debt bubble that we're living in today. And it is freaking out people like the Burnt Lobster and Christine Lagarde, because people are opting out and they are using the escape valve. I highly recommend you investigate the escape valve yourself. And with all that said, I'd like to say happy Tuesday night to the 1,865 of you guys tuning in between YouTube and Twitter. With all that said, I'm going to wish you a good night, and I'm going to see you in the next live stream tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day.